Oh. Welcome to another episode of the S10 build. Today we are going to put the dual transfer cases in. So yesterday I was actually editing a video and Matt cut these out. Those are the original cross members that go underneath the truck that are right in the way of where this thing is going to be. So we had to get them out of the way. We're going to use this, but we're also going to reuse that.
So there's two pieces of metal going across here, and we need to take these out. So this one was for the torsion bars, and we don't have torsion bars anymore. We've got poor people leaf springs, and that needs to go. And then we're going to take out this one as well, and we're going to move that forward, brace it up a little bit, and use that to hold the transfer case doubler in place. I don't want to melt myself. If you look close, right in there, you can see they've also welded it, which is nice. So I'm going to have to get a torch in there somehow. Let me just tell you, it's fun playing with fire in tight, cramped quarters. Alright guys, check this out. To continue with the cheap budget build theme of this build, we've got some $9 brake lines. We're going to take these and make them work on the rear axle here. So Colt got these little tabs, and we're going to use those to hold the brake lines down. But the hole is too small, so I've been using this neat little milling machine from Harbor Freight that Colt got in just today actually, to open that hole up to accept that brake line. Then we've got some little pieces to lock those into place, and then I'll make some hard lines to connect everything together. Looks like I'll need to use 2 of those to make it the right width, otherwise it's loose on there. So I'll do that, mock it up. I'll figure out exactly where that's going to get welded, take it off, weld it into place. Right about there. Alright guys, front brake's pretty much the same way. We're going to put this on here, make sure that we have enough clearance. The other brake lines were short, so we're reusing these from the factory brake lines. What you want to do though on the front is make sure that you have enough steering left to right, and that's not going to bind up or anything. We don't want to be bashing our brake lines while we're trail riding, so kind of behind things, so you always are driving forward. That's when you bash into the rocks the most.
Always use your back. First thing with these dual transfer cases is I got to set it up here and see if I need to massage this floor at all. The original case ended right here, and so there's nothing here in the way, but once you move it back here, here's my little tape from the other video. Once you move it back here, you know, I don't know if I'm going to have to take a hammer and massage this up. And what I mean by massage this metal up with a hammer is... Holding one of these is no fun, let alone 2. Get up on me. There we go. I don't know if I can get this or if I'm going to need a jack. Get on there. All right. I got basically a finger width here, but not much. So it's going to make more sense for me to just massage that out. have that space up there. Once this is bolted up tight, now it's against the body. As crazy as it sounds, this sheet metal will probably wear through this aluminum faster than this cast aluminum will wear out that sheet metal. Drive shaft angle, ba-ding. I'm gonna go ahead and get a Sharpie, mark where I need to massage it, and then pull this back out, and then we'll work on it. Oh, that was scary. Pull this thing back out now. Okay, strong legs. Leg press. Get off me. It's really actually this part of the hump here that I need to modify, so I'm just gonna massage that in, and I may flatten this little lip out just in case. All right, massaging tool. A 700 R4 actually has fluid in this area, so you actually do have to seal this area up to your T-case. Otherwise, you're gonna have it leak in between the two. We're gonna stab this case back in here. There's more room on a Cherokee than there is on these. Uh-oh. Oh, no. You made it dark. I'm scared of the dark. All the clearances.
All right, this is the piece that I took off of there, but we're going to strengthen this up by using this piece of steel we got at the scrapyard the other day. So we're just going to put this on here, trace it out with a Sharpie, cut it out, weld it in place.
Give it the beat. Anytime you do dual transfer cases, you put a lot of weight on the back side of your transmission housing, and you don't really like to do that unless you're going to add a support to the back of that T-case.
Support your case, bro. I have a video about that a long time ago.
Support it.
The Sharpie's running out of sharp.
Extra strengths. The way an S10 shifter linkage works up is it actually bolts to the side of the transmission over here, and then it holds these mounts straight. So I'm going to use the stock link here, which should be just fine. I shouldn't have any issues there. And then I made this one a little bit higher so it's easier to get to, and I'm going to use this link. I have little Tractor Supply heims on here that I'm gonna just use a piece of coal roll that goes across. I'll weld it whatever length I need. This should just sit outside of that shifter. We should be good. Okay, so the stock shifter went in the stock shifter location for the front output. The one that's going to my T-case, welded some coal rolled onto the threads. Okay, so here's the factory shifter going to the factory shifter link. Here's my new shifter that I have on adjusters going to my wrench. Pretty easy. We now can shift. Shifty, Matt.
I knew you were shifty.
Matt doesn't watch enough movies. Shifty. What movie is that from? So while I was working on the shifters, Matt was doing brake lines. I just cut it and flared it. I don't have a fancy flaring tool like he does. I got poor man tools.
That's why this is the budget build.
What are you doing, Matt?
Nothing?
Did you just flare that without the tool?
No, you did.
I did. I was in front. Don't forget to put it on.
Okay. Putting it on before I even mess with it this time. Where did it go?
Okay, leave that on there.
On this time.
Now flare it. So while Matt's doing brakes, I have moved over to shocks. Now I'm still waiting on my rear shocks, but my front shocks showed up. Fox is also part of the OnX Elite program, so if you're an OnX Elite member, you get a discount on these shocks. 15% off. These shocks are actually designed for a BDS 6-inch lift Ford F-250. And the reason I chose these is because they're going to be big and stout and be able to handle a lot of weight. Even though I'm not going to have that much weight, they're designed to handle a lot more abuse than I'm going to put it through. And Matt's trying to poke me with a brake line in the ear hole. Is that still considered a wet willy? Or is it a brake line willy?
I'm going to have to think on that one. Trying to come up with something clever. Couldn't do it fast enough.
All right, so we're gonna put these in. So outside of the durability and strength of a Fox shock, the reason I decided to go with them is like this is a regular shock. It just has the eyelet welded on. I've seen these break off before if you get weird twists, weird flex, anything like that. Where this shock here is made out of 6061 T6 aluminum. The whole thing is out of billet that they machine to put together. So it is a lot stronger. It's going to stay a lot cooler under a lot of workload. And let me show you something else. These right here are two of my older Fox shocks. As you can see here, I hit so hard one time that I actually bent this. This is when I rolled a truck. And I thought that this shock was still good. But actually, if you look down it, it's kind of hard to tell, but that shaft is still bent. Oh! It's still got plenty of pressure and they still work. So that's why we're choosing Fox shocks for the Ultimate Adventure S10. Where are we going adventuring?
Ultimately, the viewers will decide.
Look at how pretty that is.
Alright guys, there is the rear brake line all set up. All we need to do now is get an adapter for that. I don't know what S10 uses, but it's weird. We're going to basically do the same thing though on the front axle. So instead of having two brake lines that come down, one goes down here and then one goes way over there. Instead of doing that, we're just going to have one come down like you would on a rear brake setup. One line come down. Then I'm going to have this T right on the top of the chunk there, just like we did on the back. And then tee that off, one to the left, one to the right. So we'll just take this factory line, extend it down, have this somewhere right here.
When you have your lines dropping down on each side of your frame, they're a lot more prone to getting rubbed off by your tire. They're a lot more prone to catching sticks. And I don't know where we're going to be running the trails, where we're going to go. And if we go a place where there's a lot of sticks and a lot of brush that are going to come up, if they catch your brake line, that can be a day ender if you're not prepared. If you guys saw Tom at Matt's Off-Road Recovery, that's exactly what happened. His brake line rubbed through his tire. And then he lost brakes going off that hill in the maze. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
All right, there it is, the whole brake system. Check it out. So the front brakes comes down here, T's right there.
Hey!
Are you okay?
That vise that you said bolt on, it's not bolted on.
All right, so T's right there, goes to this side, goes to this side, and then the back one comes down here, goes across. We still need an adapter for right here. That comes down, T's, right, left. And that's about does it for the brakes. What are you working on over here?
Modifying our homemade cross member. So I got to put a plate here because this is where the flange of the transfer case is. It has about that much gap, but I want to give it more. And then I made a plate for underneath, and that's where these are going to sit. I'm going to mount that to the bottom of my plate on the transfer case to support the back of the case.
Support your case, bro.
Support the case. Dang it.
Unbend it.
Unbend. Boom. Got this opened up here for the flange of the rear. This is going to be the mount to support the transfer case. This was still clearing the flange before, but there's only about a finger width there, so now we have a nice big gap in case anything ever moves. It shouldn't, but in case it ever does, you're safe. This cross member used to be here and it held the carrier bearing for the second drive shaft. We've pushed it up now, and now I got to drill holes here to hold it in. So I have it vice gripped in And I get to do the fun part of drilling upside down because you never get hot burrs on your armpits or anything like that. It's always fun. That was with a mat press. So here's the plate I made that bolts onto the back of the tail housing. All it has to do is basically just give it a little bit of support. I'm just gonna take this and make a design.
Support you, man.
And Matt's gonna support me. And we'll just make a piece for that. And there we go. Made my piece out of the construction paper. And I cut a little notch in it here to bend it. And now we have our perfect support for the back of the T-case.
Support your case, bro.
All right, so we're taking the chrome off because, you know, who needs chrome for four-wheeling?
I like the chrome. I think we should keep the chrome, but we have to open this up at least 42 inches for these sets.
These are 40s though, but
You gotta have an inch of clearance on either side.
you're being loud over there.
You gotta have at least an inch of clearance on either side of the 40.
So because we moved the front axle forward and then chase that same flat line, and we'll curvature this to try to match that, and then come down to here, and hopefully that will give us enough clearance for these tires.
All right, so to find this curve is pretty simple. All I did was took a piece of foam, poked a hole in it, put a marker through there, and then you're just gonna hold your finger on the back side here as you trace. When you trace like that, it's gonna mark this exact same curve, but just 6 inches over. Now what I'm gonna do is cut an inch below that line, and then we're gonna cut it vertically so that we can fold it to have a little bit of a lip on here instead of just a sharp edge. We'll do the same thing here, cut along the bottom, cut here, fold over, and then we're gonna have to figure out how much we need to take off of this side. Although that's gonna be more difficult because that's where your feet sit. I think you need to push the front axle forward about 8 more inches.
I don't need feet. Well, Matt's doing the fenders. I finished up this transfer case support. So now we have the support here, plus the original mount there. And that's gonna keep this thing nice and stout and just help support the weight of the extra transfer case hanging off the back.
All right, so we've got this fender cut out about an inch below this line. Now what I want to do, I've got some of these Harbor Freight, what do you call this, Colt? Hand seamer? I don't know what that means, but it's going to help me roll this over. So I'm just going to mark a line on the side of this so that I'll know where to cut. Once we get to the curved parts, we're going to have to double these up. Otherwise, they'll just have straight lines. And make sure that when you cut this, you cut it exactly to the line, because right where it ends is where it's going to bend no matter what. So I'll cut here, here, and about there. Okay, once you get a bunch of those cut out, we'll just take our little pliers here and bend on the dotted line. And then on the short ones where you can't quite get that tool on, you can get just a pair of pliers and carefully bend it. All right, so it's starting to look decent, but we're gonna make it look even better. So for that, you need a hammer, or even better, a body hammer. Tap it in.
Just tap it in.
Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
Another thing not to do is don't hold your breath while hammering. You get lightheaded really quick.
It's like you gotta remember to breathe. You gotta be like hammer, hammer, breathe,
Yep.
breathe.
Breathe, hammer. Breathe, hammer. Hammer, breathe.
It's like giving hammer birth.
I don't think that's anything like giving hammer birth, and I don't want to be part of that. Really adds to the rigidity of the fender.
I need to keep working on this, but go show them that side.
You probably can't see, but I can feel how much more stout and how much more rigid the fender is than it was when it was just cut straight. So rolling that up there gives it that rigidity and strength to kind of keep its form.
Makes it look good too, but you got to keep in mind that it's going to damage the paint.
When you roll the metal, the paint's going to chip.
I'm going to pull the rear seat. We need to make room for a cage back here, possibly a battery. Pull the headliner. Oh, yummy. Granola.
A quarter. $19.95.
Taste this.
And a French fry? I'll let you have that. Gross. Oh, stuff just fell everywhere.
Look at the color that this used to be. A nice bright, shiny blue.
So one of the things on Ultimate Adventure, you always see somebody welding. Always see them working on something and having to be welding on it in the middle of the night. And this, I don't want to put this towards the build. This is just a tool. This isn't a cost to the build. This is just a tool that I want to carry, that I want to have portable throughout my vehicles, that I can also have in this. And these are all parts to make my own onboard welder that just uses batteries. Basically the cheapest way that I know that you can do an onboard welder. All these parts I got off of eBay. So basically these are all just super cheap. Cheapest ground clamp I could get, cheapest welding lead I could get. The way I'm going to do this is with batteries, and you set them in series, and when you end up doing this, I've actually had to do this on the Rubicon Trail, and the problem I had with it is I wore like 7 sunglasses, and we were using a bunch of jumper cables, and I was underneath my truck trying to make it work. So I'm just going to have it set up nice, where you can actually just clamp each battery in series together, and I'll have actual tools that work right. And I think I got about 150 bucks total in this whole kit.
You're still gonna burn your nose off with this. Oh man, look at that. Do I look cool?
You do. Super cool.
Gonna have a red nose.
So the auto darkening glasses I got for $9.99, I believe is what they cost. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but I think they were 10 bucks. They work. I bought 2 sets and I tried the other set. I'm gonna keep the brand new set in the kit, but your rest of your face isn't covered, so you do get a nice tan if you're going to weld a lot. Okay. Right here I got 25 foot of welding cable, and I'm going to cut 1 foot sections so that I can go power to ground. So after I cut my couple of 1 foot pieces to go between the batteries, then I'm going to have basically 20 feet left, and I'll have 2 10-foot leads, 1 for the ground and 1 for the welding lead. So when you're setting this up, if you want to put it in a box, you can pretty much put anything, but I want it to be sealed. But you can't put it in just like a 50 cal box. This is a 40 millimeter. And the reason you need that is for the length of your welding rods. So when you're welding the batteries, the reason I have 2 of these is if I only have 2 batteries, then I'm going to put this in series from this battery to the other battery. And then my welder will be on this battery for the welding lead, and then the ground will be on this battery. But if I need more juice and a 3rd battery, then I go in series with that 3rd battery and do the same thing.
If that doesn't make sense though, I'm in the process of making a how-to weld in 3 different ways in the woods. And we're gonna go over 3 different options of welding in the woods, so stay tuned for that video.
So I like to put a lot of foam in here just so that you don't have a bunch of stuff rattling around when you have your welding stuff in. But when everybody knows that you're the guy with the welder, you're the one up till 3 in the morning burning your eyebrows off working on their trucks. In this case, I can just hand them this box and say, have fun. All in. Done. We needed parts today, so we had to go down to Rapid. So we got to see if we can find our brake line adapter, and we got to get some more cutoff wheels because Matt's used them all up.
But I think what you meant to say is you had to go up to Rapid.
No, I live at a higher elevation than Rapid City.
So when you say you're going down to a city, is that an elevation or is that like going south?
Geographically, we're going north to Rapid, but if you're going by elevation, we're going down. North doesn't mean up, north means north.
North means up.
This is up, this is down, that's north.
If I'm in Canada and I say I'm going up to Colorado, doesn't make sense. You're going down to Colorado, right? Found it.
Found it. We went to all the brake line specialists in Rapid City. I ended up getting it at AutoZone.
We should have started at AutoZone.
I guess we should have.
And worked our way up.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We tried to start from the top. So Matt's always bragging to me about Rural King. I figured I would introduce him to Fleet Farm. Matt, you know what a pirate says when he gets kicked in the junk?
What?
Ah, Menards. We're gonna pull into aggressive towing to find a little secret part for the S10. Look at that. So one of the tricks we are gonna do today is get rid of the rag joint. S10s have a rag joint steering link down here at the steering box. We're gonna remove that and steal one from no other than a Cherokee.
With one tool.
With one tool. Oh, we have more.
No, we don't have those tools. Just this one tool.
And we found a Cherokee without a motor in it, so we can really cheat.
See, aren't you glad we brought the screwdriver?
Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? There we go. Almost. Ow, ow, got it. That was my fingy.
That hurts.
Whoever owned this liked to party. Van Wilder unrated.
I get an email about once a month asking where to find these plastic pieces. Apparently you find them in South Dakota. Look how good a shape that is. You just pry up on these, take them home with you, and you're good to go. Even got the inside ones too.
That doesn't mean message me and have me pull them for you. That means you fly to South Dakota and pull them yourself. What do you say?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Go have fun cutting up the S10. We'll see you guys. So one of the things we got yesterday was this brake line adapter, basically going from here to here, and now we're good. So we officially have brakes. It's funny that we went to all the brake specialty places, and the two places that had them was AutoZone and Fleet Farm. What'd you think of Fleet Farm, Matt?
Fleet Farm? If I had one of those in my hometown, I wouldn't have to go anywhere else. That'd be the only place I go.
It's like a Walmart for us.
They have groceries in there.
Now it's time to bleed brakes. Matt's
I'm sitting in the seat.
sitting in the seat there. And it's always good practice to start from the farthest point from your master cylinder to try to get the most air out as possible.
Well, we ran out of brake fluid, so Colt went to go get that. In the meantime, I'm going to take the front tires off, and then we're going to put the alignment tools on there, build a new tie rod, because that one is just a mock-up. Now, the only problem is I have no idea where Colt keeps his tools. Not in there. Oh, look, I see them. They're under there. That's what we're looking for. All right, so these guys go right here, one on each side. We make these on the website, BleepinJeep.com, if you need a set. Basically, you can use these to do your toe alignment. Anytime you do a lift or you mess with your steering, And they've got multiple hole openings. They work for anything, all the way from a razor up to a half-ton, three-quarter-ton, 1 ton, anything you got. We're using these alignment tools to make sure that the hubs are completely straight, because if they're not, and we make this, then it could be out of alignment and we just made our tie rod too long or too short. Okay, got those mounted up, one on each side. The next step is going to be to find some string. I got to go search Colt's stash of goodies again. If you were Colt, where would you keep your string? Found it. That's where Colt keeps his string. In the top of this one of 18 toolboxes. Colt has a lot of toolboxes. Holy cow. Alright guys, so for what we're trying to do here, we need to make sure that this is completely square. So I'm going to tie a string to that hole, and then we're going to go from this one right at the edge to the same spot on the other side. Okay, now we need to get a square. Oh man, I gotta go search in the toolboxes again to find a square. But what we're gonna do is put a square right here, make sure that this is square, and then we'll know it's perfectly straight. If you were a square, where would you hide? Everything's labeled, but I don't see square. Square! I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait for Colty to get back. Maybe I'll put together his bolt bin. We got this at, I don't know, someplace yesterday. Harbor Freight, I think it was. Did you get the brake fluid?
I did.
The people want to know where you keep your speed square.
Well, I got squares here.
I see now, hiding behind there. That's where you keep a square. Oh, wait a sec.
That's perfect, and that one works just fine.
Got to square this up. We're going to square one side and then use this to square the other side. That's square. Let's go to the other side. Not even close at all. We need to fine tune that a little bit, but now we need to make a tie rod exactly that length. A new tie rod. Where did that one come from?
This was my old one that I had gotten from Barnes years ago that I had put on my Comanche, and I just had it as a spare. When I built my Cherokee, I took all the parts off and built all new stuff for the Cherokee. So this is a pretty old setup here. So what we're going to use for this steering is we're going to use Barnes steering. As I've mentioned before, Barnes is a partner with the OnX Off Road program. So if you have OnX Off Road, the Elite program, you can get a discount for your Barnes steering. So with the discount, it's $274.31. Look at how thick that is. You could jack up the front end on that. That's stout. Heavy duty steering like this is not going to leave you stranded on the trail with a bent tie rod. So with a regular tie rod that's this thick, when you turn it full lock, it actually touches the diff cover here. So what I'm doing is Barnes sells an offset Heim like this that I can mount on here, and that's going to kick it out just enough where it'll clear the diff cover. This is going to be the easiest way, now that we have this lined up, to get my measurement of what I need to cut my tubes at. My current tie rod length, with everything pretty well centered up, is 57 inches from center to center. So all I got to take here now is just subtract 3.5 inches from each side. So I take 7 inches out of my 57. I need to make a 50-inch tie rod. Ta-da! In case you're ever wondering if something's right-hand or left-hand threads usually have this little tiny notch in them. So even like this jam nut, you see those nicks in it, that means it's a left-hand thread. Where this nut doesn't have any nicks in it, so it's a right-hand thread.
Check that out, so organized.
Somebody didn't like my bucket of bolts.
It's because you didn't have any. You were missing all the sizes. Now you got them all.
So I put some tape on the threads so if any splatter comes out, it doesn't accidentally catch the thread. I also want to have something in there to keep any splatter from getting in on the interior threads. So what I'll do is I'll tack it and then I'll pull this Heim out and really burn it in good. Welcome to Colt's sunny day paint booth. Primer sealer. So one of the cool things about these Duplicolor cans is that you can turn the nozzle. So it shoots a flat spray instead of a round spray like most spray cans do. But I can turn it to where it's flat down, so I don't have to hold the can sideways. I can just hold it straight up and get that flat shot going on here. All right, so right here we're 72.5 light.
Colt uses my style of measurement. +1, -1.
And that's exactly the same. So if we want to bring it in a 1/16, we can just adjust it here.
Somebody didn't let the paint dry before they stuck their hands in it.
I'm just putting my fingerprints on it. Make sure that they're in there. So 3/8, 72 3/8. 72 7/16 heavy in the back.
Something I should explain, I guess, is you can set the toe without making sure it's square, but the reason you want to make sure it's square is if you're doing something that goes to the frame. So we're going to be putting a bar from here to here for the steering for the frame, and for that you want to make sure it's square.
So when you're on the rocks turning big tires, you almost have to have hydraulic assist. And I've already shown you guys how to do your own hydraulic assist in this video right here. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going with the Trail Gear Ram because it already comes with everything I need with the hoses to connect up to the box. And you can get your box at BleepinJeep.com. I'm gonna put that Ram right here, and the shaft out here is what's gonna turn it. So the hoses will be inside safe, out of harm's way. Okay, so we squared up the axle, made sure it was true again, and then we pulled the ram out, made sure we had exactly 8 inches, went in 4 inches, and now we know that the steering is straight and that the tie rod is straight. Now this thing's a little loose, so it just sits about like that. We know exactly where everything is, so we can go ahead and weld it in. I get go ahead and put some tape on the ram because you don't want to get any sparks or anything on the ram. I'm probably going to go ahead and tape this off too before I burn this in.
And with that being square and that being in the center of travel, you know that you're going to have equal movement on both ends of the ram.
If you have less than 8 inches of steering and you're running an 8-inch ram, then you really want to take your ram apart and put spacers in. Or if you are on a budget or you don't know how to tear apart a ram, then just make sure you don't hold it at full lock, which you shouldn't do anyway because that's bad on your power steering pump, but that's also going to cause your ram to over pull into your steering.
Look how tall I am. You like my glasses?
You like my glasses? He's not allowed to wear my glasses anymore. He's out there looking like Tom Cruise.
I'm gonna get me a pair of these. Cool.
So anyway, we got a bunch of little things done. Matt was a big help this week. I do appreciate him coming out and helping me get a bunch of that stuff knocked out. Hoop dreams? Oh yeah.
Trick shot?
Trick shot.
Gonna try to dunk it. Okay, your turn. Oh, dang. You got it.
Anyway, if you like this video, check these out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Did you talk about the OnX? You gotta vote for us, otherwise we won't be going anywhere. It'll just sit here in the garage and do nothing.